Hey guys, if you tuned in for part one, then you already know that we had to stop because my nephew made a few unplanned cameos, but no problem. We're back with coffee.
Ready to have my coffee. I'm ready.
Coffee and combos. Well, speaking from experience, we did say that one of the outcomes of your epigenetic markings were your tolerance for the intolerable. After you had witnessed what occurred with Ma, you, like you said, moved up and down the highway quite often. And you, again, talking about people's journeys, you were present also for relationships that both of our uncles were in. So
I was present for seeing things, molding things, right? So you see your uncle, you see your brother, because my dad wasn't there, and the things that they're doing and the things that the people that they love are accepting is an example of maybe what people accept when they love someone else. And you see, because I feel like a lot of times the examples you see as a child, you often seek those qualities in other people because those are people that you love. It just happens without you even thinking about it. So you become attracted to what you see as examples, or the exact opposite happens, whereas you're like, I don't want anything like that ever. I think I went both ways. I think I went both ways.
So in what ways are you now benefiting from your changes to your gene expression?
The changes that I've made, or the changes that were made not on my own behalf?
Double question. Tell me what you think about me. Give me an answer to both, actually. So first, the changes that you inherited, how are you using, which ones, and how are you using it to your benefit now?
So the changes that I inherited are what makes me the person that I am today. So having respect and admiration for things that could have gone in a different way. Like I could easily be, someone who feels like I'm too sympathetic or empathetic to the wrong things at the wrong time. But instead, I look at it as someone who's able to bounce back, to be a comeback queen, or, not to let everything penetrate my spirit in a way where I'm carrying loads of things with me all the time. So I feel like being subjected to something at such a young age and having that empathy for situations, I'm always able to see two sides of things. Like when we talk, I'm always like, well,
Yes, and it's helpful to me in my development is you've never immediately agreed with me, even as like a teenager. It'd be some girl drama. It wasn't that you disagreed with me, but you wouldn't give me that immediate satisfaction, because then I would tune out everything else. You would just be like, well, this is what it is.
Well,
like,
yeah,
it was helpful.
Yeah, and I think that really allows me not to just always. That was so cute, the way the whole cup almost covered your. Oh, you saw with your little curls. Oh, I see. I do. I'm sorry. That was
disrespectful. This is my channel. I'm an adult.
You're right. Anyway, so I think that, and coming back to what we were talking about, so it's like, okay, I could easily be saying, yes, this is right, this is wrong, but I see both sides because I'm empathetic to what another person might be feeling or what another person might be saying. But now it's to a point. It's to a point, because it's like, I have to be true here. Because I have to be true to my core, right? So if I don't believe, perfect example is I had a friend one time, and there was a situation. My trust level is here, right? Her trust level is here with other people that she doesn't know her comfort level. So we had some friends over to my home, and it was actually some other friends. She was over to the home, and I went in my bed and I went to sleep because I knew you and I knew your friends. So I went to my bedroom and I went to sleep, but there were, her boyfriend was there, my husband was there, my brother-in-law was there. And we had a blowout about this because she felt as if I could have allowed something to go on in my home, and I made it seem as if I was comfortable with it, but we had two different outlooks on what had occurred. She
You're
felt
like, that's my little sister, her friend.
yes, but that's not her perspective. Her perspective
That wasn't her
is, well,
perspective.
your trust is your trust, and my trust. But see, and understand it, we didn't agree. But see, the difference in my point to this is to say we would have never agreed on the situation because we don't see that situation from the same lens. We would never, her level of trust, whatever she went through in her life, makes her level of trust here, right? So it's like, I don't care if you trust them. I'm barely trusting you. We're still trusting each other. So I'm not going to trust someone that's an extension of you and people that I don't know. As for me, it's just like, this is my home. This is a safe zone, and nothing's going to happen because I trust these people. But it's all about how another person may feel. And though you may disagree with the person and their things, you have to be empathetic and sympathetic to what they may have experienced in their life that makes their trust here and yours there. Right. So even in that situation, I may not agree with you. I'll be empathetic towards you. But if we keep going and we can't see eye to eye, we have to let it go and understand we're just not, our thinking's not the same. Our processing isn't the same. And we both may be wrong or right in our own rights, but we don't agree. And but you have to be empathetic to that. I think that's where I don't hate you. You don't have to hate me, but you have to think why people are the way they are, not make excuses for it, not be overly accepting of it, but also just understand that it just may be that the way that they process things or their pain body is one that's more susceptible to drama or susceptible to hurt in a way that yours isn't, So
that was always something we had to discuss, like even in recent years, like we had to really get to a place that we could accept, or for me to really accept, I could always understand where someone else like was coming from. I always thought about that. Like I thought about why they were the way they were just naturally, but I couldn't quite accept that their response to me, because like you said, in that situation, you're like, I can see where you're coming from, but that individual is really upset with you. And it was like, but I'm not giving you that. And I think that's the kind of difficulty I find in relationships, or even in just common dialogue, even online with people. I'm like, I can completely understand where you're coming from. Doesn't mean I'm going to agree, but I know what's behind this. But even when I disagree, it doesn't mean that I'm angry or I hate you or I have an issue with you.
Yes.
And it's a part of, for me, turning off the expression that wants to just blow up and be like, all right, go ahead, just fall over.
Because again, that goes back to our epigenetic and how we respond to things, because you have to really look at a person's intent. And I think in your response, and not to say that this is a perfect example, not to say that yours is better or mine is better. It's simply to say that in that situation, I'm going to be looking at it like, you know what? You're upset. I get you're upset. We don't agree. And you're like, listen, you need to calm down. I don't agree with you. You're acting crazy. Don't call me.
You gotta calm down.
Like, and I'm just like, I get it. I understand where you're coming from. It's just that
not what you say, but it's how you say it. Look at that. That is what I think that we always find, and that is our connection, where and again, where it comes from, what type of markings we had and what they turned off and what they turned on, because in our experiences, it affected how we respond. We were saying the same thing in that moment. Like we were saying, we get where you're coming from, and you're more on the empathy end and the compassion and understanding and being patient. Even when people are yelling, you're always like, okay. And you'll just calm to let them blow. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna match that. You ain't gonna be yelling at my sister.
But see, this is where we're different, right? Because some people will say that I'm pretty intense when it comes to, like, if I'm planning like a party or I'm getting something together, I am intense, and I'm just like, things have to. Okay.
I'm sorry. You like order. It's not a bad thing.
I like it to be in a certain way. I really, I go to the point where it can be a little intense, to where you'll get like a little like, okay, calm down.
And that's when I get quiet. That's when we switch roles.
Understanding your intensities, understanding your responses, understanding your strength, understanding your weaknesses, and understanding that in those things, the way that people respond to how you respond to things can be a complete rejection to the way that you move in life. They can reject that 100%. Like, they can reject that. Like, okay, you went in your bedroom and you left women unprotected and unguarded with my man and someone else's. You're disgusting. Okay.
I was like, all right, sis. I mean,
but okay. And I have to be understanding that they feel that in their spirit. And I can't just reject it. Like, oh, the nerve of you. I am a trustworthy woman. I can't do that. Like, I can't.
You're like,
because
okay.
that would be me rejecting the way that they move in life and the way that they respond to, and they haven't had the ability to sort through that themselves yet. If that's where they are and that's how they feel, and they're not at a point where they don't see anything that they need to look inward and rectify, who am I to shine a light on it? Because that's just going to make me the bad guy. Anyway, I will go.
Sure.
But
no, you're right. And that was a perfect example of how you've, taken what you inherited and made it an advantage. What do you feel like you've turned completely off? Like, do you think there's a mark that you've completely erased?
That is such a good question. A mark that I have completely erased. I cannot say that I have completely erased it, but a mark that I'm definitely trying to erase is validation through motivation of others. Like, because
explain that.
So it's easier to prop other people up, honestly, like, than yourself. Because when you think about it, it's easier to push someone up than it is to do a pull-up. Like, you ever try to do a pull-up? And you're like, but if you're trying to lift someone up, you can get to the thighs and you can really push them up. So for me, I learned in the situation, instead of focusing on my own healing when I was 6 and saying, that made me sad for mommy, and that's something I needed to fix for myself, I just put all my energy into fixing mommy. And that's how I express my love. So my validation of what love is constantly being there from someone through their faults, through their falls, through their mistakes, through their mishaps, keeping their secrets safe with me. I would never dare talk bad about my mom to anyone that came near me. You would never hear me say a word bad about my mother, because I understood her struggle and I loved her for it, and I just wanted to be here. But I carried that over into my relationships, to a fault. And I think that's something I'm trying to shed now, to where you can be a friend to someone, you can be a partner to someone, but self-sacrifice is not something that you should make the basis or the premise of a relationship. You should not be sacrificing so much of yourself that you're dissolving bits and pieces of you are not there. So I think loving myself enough to understand that it may take a little bit more upper body strength, a little bit more strength to pull my own self up, but validating myself through pushing me, and rather than being there and healing someone else. So finding love and healing myself and growing myself rather than needing to do that for someone else. That is something I'm letting die. I'm letting that die.
That's powerful. I like that one for you a lot.
Thank you.
My face. No, it's dope.
Yeah, but it's so funny because I literally live my life on analogies. Like, I make sense of things by associating them with everything else. And I've always had this vivid imagination, like, since I was a child. And I think that's another thing that happened in the transference is I literally feel like I can put myself in situations and imagine how it would feel. And one of the things I always say is, like, I think about Everest and the people that climb Everest, like how they have to stop and they have to sleep and they're in this freezing cold, but they are just determined to get to the top of this mountain. And they get there and they do this and they accomplish it. Then they have to come all the way back down. And in knowing that, and you still will climb that mountain, you still will do all that just to conquer whatever it is that your spirit or your mind is telling you have to do to feel fulfilled. You do that. That's the type of stuff the human mind tells us we need to do, because really, I just have to, I feel like I try to associate as much as I can with how other people feel and how other people process things and feel about things. And it's kind of sort of the same way when I decided I wanted to run a half marathon. It was just like, I just kept running. And I just kept running.
I was like, she runs now? Like, I never even knew you to work out. So I was like,
because I didn't.
She's a runner?
But it was a point. You see, there's something about when you're going through a transitional process, there is something about pushing your mind, body, and spirit to new limits. I'm talking like meditation. I'm talking about breathing exercises. I'm talking about mindfulness, to the point where you're looking at everything around you with a more purposeful pursuit. Like, seriously, like, okay, well, I can run 3 miles. Well, can I run 5 miles? I can run 5 miles. Well, can I run 10 miles? And if I run 10 miles, how am I keeping my breathing? And if I'm keeping my breathing right, maybe I can do the full 13. And then when you do the 13, it's just like, who's to say I'll ever run another one again? I probably will. But it's just to know that I can do it. And I correlated those things with the fact I can get a divorce. I can do this. I'm strong enough to do this. I can. Wow. I got my master's degree, and I nobody helped me. Like, no one babysat my kids. I was in a room by myself with 2 kids. I always say this because I'm proud of it. But with 2 kids,
you should be.
Never went to a library. Never left my home. I did pretty darn good, and I finished. And after that, it's like you push yourself. You just keep pushing yourself, because as human beings, sometimes we need something to tell us that I'm here. I can do this. I can push myself a little bit further. Like, I can be committed to this. And it makes you feel like there's more than just what you can do now. And you think about what you can do later, or what's really possible for you. I don't know. I feel like everything that we do is for a purpose, for us to be connected to something greater. Like, why are we doing this? And this COVID, what we're going through right now, is a perfect example of that. Like, what if you strip us of all the things, our possessions, all the things that what are we here for? Like, what are we really connected to in here? And people just need to make sense of that. Like, we have to.
Yeah. So. The first sort of post or story that I made was just stating that I hope people use this time to do some really good healing. And the first thing I thought of was what I would have done if I was able to heal in private. Because unfortunately, there are people who only know me from the areas that are the timelines that they met me during my healing process. And it could have been when I was my worst self. It could have been when I was my most raw, because to go through healing, you have to go through a breaking first. So people can know me in my whole dysfunctional self, and then see me another day and layers have come off, and then these pieces have broken off, and then see me a year later and I look like all skin has come off and I'm just like unrecognizable, and I look like I'm literally bleeding. And when you're healing, you have to be careful not to bleed out on other people, which is why I keep my tagline, heal, evolve, speak. What took me, people are like, what takes on? You should have been doing this. It was the timing in my healing. Again, to me, the healing's going to be a forever journey, but I had to get to a place where whatever I was producing and whatever I was offering didn't have remnants of my healing on it.
But I think the best part about it is that, well, not the best part about it, is I think that something that people don't realize is that it's okay to simultaneously be happy, hurting, and healing. And I don't know where I heard that. I can't even remember right now. I wish I did. But I've been using that saying and going through my divorce. I'm constantly saying that I'm happy, hurting, and healing. And I look at it as, if you are transforming, right? Can you imagine that taking parts of yourself, like if you broke a limb, or I imagine that even, we don't know, people always talk about butterflies and how they go into this cocoon and how they are wrapped up in there. You don't know if they're suffocating, if they're smothered, if they're uncomfortable. You don't know what the pain feels like when they're bursting out of that cocoon that they've been in for months to stretch out. You don't know how that feels, but I imagine that you're happy when you're getting through the journey, but the hurting of it is being reminded that you were even in the cocoon in the first place. And the healing from it is understanding that you have these new wings and you're going to be able to fly, and you're happy that it's happening, but you have to understand that you have to be all 3 of those things in the process. You can't just be, hurting and stuck at hurting.
Happy, hurting,
happy, hurting, and healing. And before you even get to happy, sometimes it's hurting and healing. But you need those 3
Sometimes
H's.
you come back around again.
Yes, exactly. Recycle.
It's not linear. You know, it looks like
not.
this. You just become back. I appreciate you. I thank you for, you know, being honest, being open, and, you know, letting people in a little bit in this convo. But it's really helpful, I think. You said what?
I didn't know it was going to be like a whole, it felt like an interview for me. Like, we talked a little bit, but I'm like, wait,
Coffee and Convos is like that, you know? It's like my own little healing circle.
I love it. I think that this is beautiful. I feel like it is seriously, I think it's beautiful. I think it's a wonderful circle of trust that you can build with individuals who want to be a part of it. I think any woman, man, you know, preteen, whomever is going through a journey of healing and self-discovery, I think that it's a great platform for them to come on and be able to say, you know, this is what I am doing to strengthen my core, you know, and be able to balance myself and center myself. So
I had to say to someone this week, they were talking about I posed the question on my Instagram of what has been your greatest thought, or who have you thought about the most during this time in quarantine? And one person was brave enough to say death. And someone inboxed me, they're like, I was afraid to be honest and admit that I have been just having this reoccurring thought about death since this all happened. And I responded to them with, humans are way more alike than we are different. And that is why I find strength in transparency and healing through conversation and understanding, because I recognize that one thing that I am clearly erasing is my propensity to mute myself and shut down. You know, I had years where I took vows of silence, where I decided to keep things internal, and I would not speak of them, and that doesn't stop them from existing, whether you want to put them in the forefront of your mind or not. And I just suppressed so much, so by the time I went to college, everything blew up. I was in a great little relationship, and I was happy, and I had friends, and I was active on campus, and it seemed like everything couldn't have been better, and that emotional time in my life couldn't have been worse. And it was because I literally just needed to talk everything that I had pressed down out. And once I finally started, and it still took me years after that, I would think really it wasn't until my early 20s that I even started finding a way to strengthen myself to articulate just my journey. And then from there, just saying things out loud to myself, even at a whisper, I hear it back, and I was like, oh, and I can connect dots, and then I can remember things, and then I can understand things. And it made me feel more comfortable to ask questions and journey home and find my dad and ask him a question. And I think if people were open to just talking, I hope that they can be encouraged enough and excited enough to take control of their own healing. Like that conversation with mommy for the plight of motherhood is years of healing in the works. And a lot of times people don't have to be where you are. I had to get a lot of that healing done without a conversation with her because she wasn't at that place. Sometimes people will be inspired by your own journey of healing, and it'll let them come to terms, and then they will take, you know, the strength to be able to express their story. And that is why I went from the podcast of me giving my story through my view to creating Deani Speaks and giving my first video way for mommy to give the perspective through her lens and her journey and her story. And then even after that, we were sitting there, we kept turning that camera off like, what? You married who? It connects your own life when you get to hear the story of your parents and your ancestors. It helps you make sense of your own struggles and your own battles and even just your own responses. So I love that we talk, and I hope that more people talk, even if they just talk to us. They can talk to us and come on, you know.